Started work on this challenging Austrian yew stave with the big knotty waggle at the end. I posted something about it ages ago, about how I was trying to rough it out. But we'll take it down slowly. Oh, you can see the swirl in the grain here. Curves round somewhat wicked. Not a huge amount of, well, there is a huge amount of width, but when you see how it's undercut at various places, and with the knot, it'll have to be laid out as a fairly skinny longbow. That's about my best string line. It'll have to have a bit of a waggle out here. But yeah, it'll probably be alright. Just roughing down a pencil line to give me some idea of the next cut, which will be for reducing the thickness. I've got quite a lot of sapwood, so some of that may have to come off. Yeah, bandsaw blade went and snapped on me. It's a bit of a pain, but I've got it changed the blade, roughed it out. We're a bit thick here, but obviously it makes sense to leave extra thickness at a dodgy point, and you can see there is a big crack. I say a big crack, I can get my fingernail in it. So that's going to need treating with some care, but by the time it's thinned down, hopefully it will be alright. That's your signs of it going across there. Interesting. You can see it swirls round there. I mean, that could be a problem. We might have to lose some length off the bow and what have you. We'll see. Now I've been getting on the shave horse with the draw knife and roughing it down a bit more. Beginning to look like a bow. It's a bit shorter. I had to take some off this end where the heartwood was disappearing and there was just too much bend, and this suspicious sort of cracked area was a bit worrisome. But the spec for it is £80-ish at 30 to 31, or whatever I can get out of it. So that's quite reassuring. This is that stave of Austrian yew. I've shown little bits of video of it way back. It had a really odd waggle here. There was presumably another big branch coming out this way. And I think as I've removed wood, this has moved and shifted, and there's even a crack there, which is why I've taken some off the length. It's a bit shorter than I hoped. It was, I ended up losing about 3 or 4 inches off the end. Yeah, it's about 69 inches long. It was sort of a stave that might not yield a bow, or it might anyway. I've got it roughly tapered. I've floor tillered it a bit, which is something I don't normally do. They do more of that in the States. You know, you grab hold of the top of the bow, at bottom end on the floor, and press it, and look at the curvature of the limb. I think that's a stiffer one, but I've tried to get it roughly balanced, cleaned it up, tapered it. It's a bit characterful. Anyhow, let's give it a tug. Yeah, that lower's stiffer. It doesn't look like the left limb's hardly bending. That's sort of £50. Now there's a guy where I shoot who's just sort of getting into this sort of thing, and he's making a yew bow, and I think he's at this sort of stage now, and he's not quite sure where to go. It's that where do I go now feeling, and I always say, like, I can see the middle is flexing. Now I want to get the outers moving, but what do I actually mean when I say get the outers moving? But what I mean is, this is a rough taper and a fairly even taper. Theoretically and practically, the taper on a bow actually tapers more and more and more, and then tapers quite sharply at the ends. Well, sharply is an exaggeration. The taper isn't consistent. It's more like that Spitfire's wing shape, where it tapers more at the end. So to get the outers, the mid and outer sections moving more, I'll be removing wood off the belly. You know, you don't go mad, you just, I'm tending to remove more at the tips. Sort of starting here, spoke shave, draw knife, whatever. And in some places where there's too much sapwood, I'll be removing sapwood. Like here you can see there's very thick sapwood there, but there's very thin sapwood there due to this swirly knot. And on the other side of the bow it looks different. So everything's got to be done carefully and with a bit of thought. So yes, I'll be removing wood. Well, I'll leave this side alone because that's bending more. But you can see it's pretty even thickness here. So I might be tapering, say, this outer section here, just wood off the belly, and I'll be taking quite a bit off here and going outwards. The reason for that was the centre used to be there, because I lost 3 inches off that end. Having moved the centre here, that area is now relatively thick, because this was the thickest part of the bow when the centre was there, and you can see it, that is thicker than that. So I need to adjust, take some wood off there. The other thing is the width. I'm not going to mess around with the width taper, because that doesn't have so much effect anyway, and you need a bit of extra width to let you adjust the string line. And also, if this funny knot is moving, which I suspect it is, I've taken off quite a lot of bulk, and I think it's straightening out, moving this way actually. I'm not certain, it could just be that I did a very good job of sawing it out straight. It could be that where I took 3 inches off the end, that 3 inches at an angle looked like a big bend, and now I've removed it, the bend's not there. You can't always see what's happening because you haven't got a clean straight line as a reference point. The whole thing's organic, so it's all touchy-feely. Use your eye, use your hands, do a bit of work. I'll give it another pull. You're probably all fed up with me yakking by now, but I'm just trying to give a bit more insight, because sometimes I take it for granted and I'll say stuff and people think, what the hell do you mean by that? Let's see, there's £60. The other thing is when you bend it a little bit, say I only pull it to 40, and people post pictures like this on the interweb, and they say, well, how's my bow looking? I said, I don't blinking know, you can't see it's not bending. But if you pull it to somewhere near full draw weight, which is what you should be doing, you'll see a lot more. So if I'm aiming for 80, should I pull it to 80? Well, yes, as long as the tiller's looking reasonable. The tiller's not too bad, so if I pull it even more, there's 70, it's beginning to, well, there you go, there's 80. So you can see, yes, the right is bending more than the left. You can see it dynamically, and it is stiff where I said that used to be the centre of the bow. And just doing that, you can see my thought processes and the level of experience and what have you. What I could see early, maybe you couldn't see, but pulling it a bit more shows it a bit more. But it's that, how much bottle have you got? Don't pull it to full draw weight if you think it's going to explode, but if it looks reasonable, pull it to full draw weight. But of course, how do you know what's reasonable until you've got experience? It's, yeah, don't be frightened of blowing up a bow. It happens to the best of us. Bang! Oh,